This is the world of hairdressing that I inherited. It came from the masters like Antoine, Alexandre, Kenneth Patel, and Vidal Sassoon. It was really like the golden age in hairdressing. But that's all been slipping away.
One thing that's forever is change.
The current state of education, I think, it troubles me.
And we condition the industry to kind of rotate at the lowest level.
Our hairdressers were leaving and taking their clientele with them.
You know, these people in the salon that should be your family members actually become your biggest competitors.
We have technology on our side, and we can kind of do what we want.
It's become very difficult to distinguish what's happening.
As an industry, we've vilified the corporate players
In the hair care product world, because so much of what's said is false.
Some brands are deep-rooted in what I call evil.
You can just go to a salon and cut hair in some states.
To get a license to hold a pair of scissors and a comb, I don't think it's necessary.
I would guess it's because there was a really strong lobby that said we don't need to be regulated.
Deregulation is very, very scary.
It's changed from commission to booth rental.
The commission salons are dying.
In order to keep up, do I need to open booth rental salons?
A lot of salon owners think that the idea of letting go, that chaos and bedlam is going to take place.
It breaks down all those barriers that you have.
How you can charge $60 for a haircut after you stay 30 years behind the chair? How?
My own son has just graduated beauty school, and unfortunately, this is the world that he's inheriting. It was about a year and a half ago we decided to do this film, and we'd invited a small group of hairdressers to come to Miami, as we were very curious to see what they thought of the state of the hair industry.
Salons are just getting cheaper and cheaper.
We shouldn't be competing against the same companies that we're doing business with.
There's a dirty word for me called the industry, right? Who's the industry?
From the major manufacturers are undercutting the prices, they're diverting the products, lying about diverting the products.
We all want to elevate the industry, and we all want things to get better, and we're talking about that right now.
Because the industry is so scared to raise pricing, it's stagnant. And that stagnant pricing is really affecting the amount of opportunity and resources that's available to salons. The cost of a haircut, has barely gone up over the last 40 years, where the cost of milk and bread, everything else is going up, yet a haircut is not. If we could start teaching some of these business philosophies and really help the salon owner, then we can change a whole industry.
The first filming barely scratched the surface of what was going on, so we decided to keep going.
My entire career, all I've ever heard is people talk about changing the hair industry, and I've been waiting. It's been, practically 30 years. I've been waiting for this change to happen, but it's just words.
I've known Tev Finger for most of my career. Together we helped build Bumble and Bumble, and he's now the president of Luxury Brand Partners, a company that creates artist-driven brands. We both agree that there's a huge systematic breakdown in this industry.
This film was more to start a movement to really get salon owners and stylists to start aligning and figuring out how do we make it a better place, and not just use that as a soundbite. Sitting back and watching the industry go down the toilet is only going to have you either out of a job or making no money.
We traveled the country gathering as many opinions as we could, from stylists, owners, students, legislators, and anyone who could give us information on the state of our beauty industry. So we let our curiosity guide us, and not a script, because with a script, you're following order. The chaos that now came out of all these interviews created this film. It sounded like people were finally angry enough to want a change, but they didn't know what that change would look like. And sometimes you just have to press the reset button and lose everything you know to gain a new perspective. Every great hairdresser that I've ever met has mastered the classics. They understand what the masters have brought us, and that the path to becoming great starts with the core values in education. But what if the schools, which are the foundation of our education system, and the people running them are completely out of touch? But not everyone sees it that way. So I spoke with Representative Kathy Hawkins to see what the government really thinks you're getting from a beauty school education.
So the beauty school teaches you not only how to cut hair or to color, but also the business component. The health aspect is giant.
Sounds pretty great, right? I think I'd be lining up to go to school if that was true. But the reality is, that's not what's going on.
Beauty school right now is broken. They're handing these graduates a roadmap of 1950s Los Angeles, and they're telling them to navigate the streets today with it.
My issue with beauty school is that they're not really teaching relevant content that translates into what you do behind the chair. Beauty schools cover nails, facials, massage. I mean, if you're going to school because you want to be a hairdresser, then you should be studying hairdressing.
Beauty school it's this place where you're really, again, going to learn to pass the state board. It's not where you're learning how to do your skill set. All of that comes after school.
I work with a lot of students coming out of school, and they're not comfortable. Well, why? What aren't you being taught?
Nothing is being taught that is currently being requested in the salon. You know, I know it's a little controversial, might offend some teachers and schools out there, but that's the reality of 90% of the education system.
Like there wasn't like a real level of respect, I don't think, between the educator and the student.
For many years, people have questioned most of the existing beauty school system. People go to school to get a license. However, we realized a change should have been made more than 10 years ago.
Well, I think that we're our own worst enemy when it comes to state licensing. It hasn't been changed for years. The testing and the things that they're tested on don't make sense anymore. Just some of the things that we do, that we look for, they're not relevant anymore.
Right now, every state has their own requirements for you to earn your license. And the difference can be thousands of hours and dollars.
I think it'd be a lot easier for everybody if you standardized it. Various states have different rules, and in some states, you may need 900 hours, in another state, 1,500 hours.
If you had to quantify the 9 months at beauty school to what you really needed to learn, how long would it take?
If beauty school went the way that it should go, it should take about 3 months.
If 3 months is all it really takes, why are schools forcing students to do up to an average of 1,500 hours? But then again, do you think a school could charge 15 grand for a 3-month program? I don't think so.
And what's your school's motive? To fill that seat, to make that dollar? To get you out, to get another student in? That's not okay.
I think that putting someone through 1,600 hours is only a way for cosmetology schools to make money. I mean, they're literally getting $20,000 for this student to go there.
So let's clarify it here. There's two types of schools. You've got a vocational beauty school, then you've got what we call the private schools. Vocational schools and some of the private schools accept federal grants and financial aid. On average, the cost for beauty schools is anywhere between $10,000 to $25,000. All of that seems pretty straightforward. So where's the problem?
When I was in school, that there was 32 of us started and only 9 of us graduated.
The average dropout rate in beauty schools is about 50%. And to me, that's completely fucked up. I'll tell you what, the root of the problem is an outdated curriculum. It's causing students to drop out, which caused loans to default. That makes the government want to pull back on student loans, which is leading to a much bigger problem.
I think the major hurdles in overcoming the educational system is school directors and owners realizing that it's not just about money. What do we do to make sure when that student graduates and gets a state board exam, they know a little bit more so they'll have a much easier career?
Actually, John Paul owns a different type of school than what we've been talking about. And to me, It's in the top end of the school system. So I wanted to hear from one of these schools myself. So I went to LA to see some of my old friends who run the Tony and Guy Academy. The government requires that all schools meet the same standards. So I asked Zach how he deals with this.
Challenge to me was we need to reinvent the classics, keeping what has made our brand so strong, which is our education, but how do I somewhat simplify it a little bit?
They will kick your butt, make you go through all the basics to get to the advanced, but once you get to the advanced, it's so different than anything I could have ever taught myself.
I love just working on and cutting hair. My first big chapter of my career is going to be in the salon behind a chair doing clients.
What these kids are really getting is definitely more than a license. It's the understanding that a continuous education is the source of a great career. It's one thing to get an education from a great school, but even the top private schools share my frustrations with this dysfunctional system.
There isn't a unity amongst all the academies across America, which makes people still think that, you know, we don't necessarily know exactly what we're doing. If one person's doing one thing, one person's doing another thing, and the regulators are not taking us as serious. I think that if we can come together and set up different standards for the education of a hairdresser, there's a different aspect of it. There's the entrepreneurial aspect of it, how to build themselves up, making sure that they communicate properly and, you know, set goals for themselves and visualize where they want to be and stuff.
They can't just be like labor camps where you just go and, you know, spend your 1,000 hours, give them your money to get free, to get a license to operate. So I've heard the good and the bad, and it's clear there's an outdated curriculum. It's got too many hours, not enough relevant content, and a massive dropout rate. So I asked Kathy if there was a solution at a policy level for such a fragmented system.
And a lot of those things are arbitrary. So if you can make a case for why they should be changed, that certainly is something that should be open for discussion. Now, they're not going to do it just because you said so or because I said so, but when you can lay out point by point why this is better, why this will lead to a more professional organization, then yes, to not have schools at all would be a huge mistake.
If we can't come together and fix this system, we really risk the future of our industry. We're going to leave the next generation stranded without the same opportunities we had. But what if we don't come together and we just scrap the education system? Deregulation would just do away with licensing completely. Anyone can open a salon and call themselves a hairdresser.
I don't think deregulation is the answer. However, if it's a choice between deregulation and keeping things the same, I'd go with deregulation any day of the week. Something's got to give.
Of course you need a license. What are we just gonna be out there floating and here give anybody a pair of scissors? It's the craziest thing I've heard. I think that everyone needs to be licensed. I think that the board needs to raise the bar, needs to make everyone work harder, needs to realize, look, this is a craft, this isn't a joke. We aren't just out to make the dollar.
The system undoubtedly needs a good shake. I don't think there's any answer right now. I think it's something that a lot of collaborative minds have to get together and find something that's going to work for everybody.
We think it's critical that licensing stays intact and it stays in place, but we do agree with the critics that the licensing scheme in this country is broken, right? It needs massive reform.
Right now, the Professional Beauty Association, or the PBA, are the only people opposing this problem.
The reason that a hairdresser has to have a license, from a state government standpoint, is purely about health and safety. Do you know how to sterilize your equipment? Do you have the right procedures so that you're not endangering the general public?
And it's not about the state saying, hey, you know, you have to be a great hairdresser. The state says you have to be a safe hairdresser. That's where their line should stop. And then it's our job as an industry to help bring forth the rest of the training and the rest of the information.
The sad fact is, these legislators that are regulating our industry don't know anything about hairdressing or the people involved with it.
The reality is you got a bunch of old white guys making these laws and they've never stepped foot in a salon in their life, so they really don't know. And they're being whipped up with these other opinions. We haven't done a good job as an industry to to demand, hey, look, if we're going to license people, here's the kind of things we should be looking for.
I hate to say this, but the PBA have been fighting a losing battle for years because we as hairdressers don't give them any support. So what are the other solutions?
If we could license our students, you know, that they go through our program and then we qualify them. They are licensed hairdressers. And guess what? Let them go after they have a license, take it to the government, let the government have their money, so then everyone's happy. You know, couldn't we find a win-win for all of us?
Do you think it is possible to change the system?
The only way that we can change it is if we're a unified industry, right? So that if it's salon owners and school owners, manufacturers, right? We have the most impact of any industry, and yet we haven't come together to really drive a common agenda. And I think we can.
If we don't get together as a group of hairdressers and say, look, we need to stabilize across the board of the country what hours we should be doing, and let's look at the curriculums that we're teaching for somebody to get a license, the whole thing could come apart.
All of the changes in our industry are being accelerated by technology. This has led to a new breed of stylist and consumer.
The beauty industry is growing. When you look at technology, the new literacy, people want the red carpet because they saw it on Instagram. Beauty is not only in the eyes of the beholder, it's in the eyes of Instagram.
It's almost like a digital art show that you can keep constantly updating yourself in.
Because of technology, stylists can now book their own appointments, they could run their own credit cards, they could do their own marketing, and they could kill it at age 24.
I think is powerful. I think the challenge with that is that the people who are really driving that tend to be the younger stylists and professionals and clients and consumers.
Where I use Instagram and maybe one other vehicle, they'll use Periscope, Instagram, Facebook. They're kind of using everything.
We have so many hairdressers at Rudy's that carry their Instagram account. 6 haircuts a day, they're posting their hours when they work, because their schedules are flexible and their client schedules are flexible. Social media is really the best connection in between those two worlds.
It's really about communications. It also gives a lot of stylists the opportunity to go online to learn new things about their industry.
You know, it's funny, that's probably the biggest change I've seen in the industry in the 30 years that I've been in the industry, is in the social media part of how we attract new customers and how we engage with them.
I mean, Instagram is like, for hairstylists, it's like Tindering, you know? Like, you can just burn through hairstylists and find which one you like, you know? So it's been an amazing tool for me just in getting new business and getting exposure, and then connecting with other people in the industry and just continuing to be inspired by other people's work.
If you're talented and you know how to market yourself, it doesn't matter how old you are.
These kids on Instagram are crushing me because they're able to make everything beautiful, and that's why ironwork is so popular right now, because it looks fantastic on Instagram. You know, and now I have these hairdressers that come from other places in the country and guest spot, and I would never have had that without Instagram.
What happened after Facebook, and then Facebook helped a little bit, I will say, but Instagram and Snapchat, it changed everything. It brings you so much business. It's insane. It's insane. It's like insane.
Technology not only affects the way that hairdressers do business, it's also changing consumer behavior.
The millennial generation they're all about convenience, and they want to buy whatever on their phone. I mean, I even had a client buy something on her phone while sitting in my chair, and it was for sale out front.
Where I find my products comes from all these different angles. Yeah, I mean, it's not so much anymore for magazines or anything like that. It's much more internet driven. On Instagram, you now have advertisements that are in your feed. That's usually where they plant that seed, makes you want to go check it out, and then it kind of blossoms into you using the actual product.
And people have asked me, why go to a salon to buy even salon take-home or retail products? Why even go to a salon? And the answer is quite simple. A hairstylist in a salon can tell you what product to use on your type of hair for your type of hairstyle and how to create it. No drugstore or supermarket ever do that.
So we know that technology is never going to replace the professional hairdresser, but we should be creating new business models that stay current with our consumers, or we'll lose control of our retail. It reminds me a lot of the music industry back in 2000. Record labels didn't react to how consumers were using this new technology, and their business models have never recovered.
I would say that the music industry is in free fall. It's undergoing a collapse. People are buying less and less music, and they've decided to rent it through streaming. Artists really need to find a new avenue for revenue outside of performance and licensing.
Bruce is the founder of one of the most influential record companies of all time. He discovered bands like Soundgarden and Nirvana.
I started a record company called Sub Pop, and there was a unique collection of artists who didn't fit the standard rock star mold. There wasn't a bunch of millionaires trying to start their own label. It was a bunch of outsiders who were very resourceful, started with $20,000, and eventually turned the music industry upside down in the early 90s. Technology is always going to evolve, and if you're not willing to ride the wave and see the potential, recognize the potential of these changes, you're going to be left behind.
Just like Bruce said, if we don't adapt to changing technology, we will fail. And just like the music industry, we'll be in a free fall. Or maybe you'll just be left behind.
The biggest challenge is not the young generation. They get it, and they're killing it. We have stylists who you can't get in for the next several months because they know a secret that some of the older stylists don't know or unwilling to adapt to, and that is that social media has changed everything. It is the #1 way to build a clientele and retain a clientele, and ignore it at your own peril. If you don't adapt, you will get swallowed up whole by somebody who understands that.
The owners in this industry are somewhat unwilling to change, you know? I think some sort of change a lot of times is kind of seen as their policies not working or their business practices not working, and somewhat they're admitting failure.
I think the fear of salon owners and older hairdressers of what my generation is doing comes from almost a point of jealousy in a way. Like they're just hitting their head against the wall, like, why didn't I get to do that?
It's the old way of thinking that the leader needs to come up with all the creativity, with all the ideas, with all the direction of where everything is going. And that's what was our initial fear. You know, it's coming from another source.
Me, on my Instagram, I don't use my Instagram. I want my kids, people work with me, I want them to do it for me. Because they're born with that. It's the new generation already arrived. I want to go with them. I don't want to fight them, you know? I want to grow with them.
One of the things that millennials do really well is, you know, they're great at broadcasting their value and making it seem like everybody sees their value. They have 1 million followers, right? So if you have 1 million followers, everyone must think there's huge value in what you do. So they've figured out a different way of making the experience. So it's almost like you're coming to a celebrity.
And they got an amazing clientele. You know, they got a wait list that's, 6 months long, you know? My wait list is like 6 weeks long. The clientele dictates the value.
People have been shamelessly promoting themselves for years, and it's just now more people have access to like shameless self-promotion. But I think still at the end of the day, if you're not good, you're not good. And it's just, you're not gonna sustain. So it's just kind of like, I think the mediocrity always fades out.
While we were talking before about having, millennials here and boomers here and Xers here, the truth is those three generations can benefit greatly from each other if they use each other and learn from each other and adapt to each other's styles. There's things that the boomers are doing that are powerful. They work really hard and they have great work ethics. But then on the flip side, the millennials, they sometimes work more intelligently.
It'd be really interesting if for a while we actually reversed things and let these young kids that are coming out doing fun stuff give everybody else education on how to change their business.
There's a tendency to see the millennials, the new generation, coming into business as taking away of a certain kind of hierarchy. The fear of, you're gonna knock me off my pedestal. What we're doing is adding more chairs to the table. Because the millennials add to what we are doing. They breathe life into it. They breathe technology into it. And if we are not paying attention to the new technology, we are not literate. And that's how we need to look at it. Not as in a hierarchical sense, but in a team building sense.
When you can run your business on a smartphone, the four walls of a traditional salon suddenly seem outdated. Hairdressers are becoming more independent, and they're moving increasingly towards a non-commission business model. There are many variations of salon models, but let me explain the most popular ones. A commission salon is where someone sets up the shop and all the hairdressers are employees. In a chair rental, the stylists are all independent contractors and they're just basically renting their chairs. There's also hybrid variations of both of these models. Right now, a new model called salon suites are becoming the most popular option. How do you feel about some of these new business models, like salon suites?
I sort of relate that to the basement hair salon, where oftentimes it's a cash business, it's not licensed, and it's not a positive for the beauty industry.
The lease salon is in my opinion, one of the worst ideas. I liken it no different than somebody just popping open a nail shop or something.
Okay, I'll rent this station, but then they've got to buy products. They've got to make their own appointments. They've got to make sure that they have everything cleaned all the time, and how to pay their taxes, how to pay this, how to do that.
It's changed from commission to booth rental, and now booth rental's kind of changing into these salon suite concepts. Salon suites are individually self-contained salons that stylists could rent and turn into their own salon.
I think a lot of people who jump straight into these salons are quite lazy. I know a lot of people who have quit. We've had tons of assistants quit to go join a lease salon or go do whatever, and they're just not gonna be good. And they're gonna end up stunting themselves if they don't go back.
To doing a rental or to doing things like that? How you want to create like a brand, or how you want to create something like healthy, you know? When you have people, they're getting just 2 days a week, 3 days a week. It's a different way of business. I don't really see my business like that, period.
There's pros and cons, obviously, to both of the styles, right? Whether you're commission-based or lease or booth. And definitely the millennials are migrating, by far to the booth, renting their own booth, or in a lease salon, or, the hybrids that kind of exist. And they're moving away from commission salons.
Rental, you can do, if you want to travel, you can travel. If you want to go to somebody's house, you can go to somebody's house. If you want to have your set hours, you have your set hours. I feel that if you know that you can make your money by doing that, why not?
We had a few stylists come to me and quit. They left to go to a salon suite where they said they need to pursue their dreams of being completely and totally independent and running their own salon. I bitched and moaned about it for a day. And then I decided to adapt. The very next day, I called my landlord and said, I want more space, I'm building salon suites.
What I even like to do is have commission stylists for 4 years and then graduate them through into that booth renter, because really that's what they want anyway. So why am I gonna try and hold anyone back just because that's my policy?
Instead of looking at things through an innovative lens, there's a tendency to sit back and be safe because you're doing all right, the market is fine, you're on the line, you are not in the red, you're doing fine. And so the idea of improvement doesn't happen.
Was it the right move for me to leave a commission-based salon? But for me, it was. And I think for a lot of people, it's the right thing for them to be in a commission-based salon. It's not, there's not a right or wrong. It's just about what you value and what you want to get out of the industry and what you want to give to the industry.
This is not going away. Millennials are are quickly going to become the majority of the workforce. You know, if you don't know how to manage and handle and inspire the millennial force, that alone could be the end of your traditional salon, because it's a game changer.
This newer generation is about to dominate the workforce, and if we can't understand the values they bring, then we might as well close up the shop.
I strongly believe that, especially with this new, younger millennial generation, that interactivity and engagement is key.
Millennials like to control their relationships with brands. You know, another thing that matters to them a lot when it comes to who they want to work for, who they want to buy from, is values. They're very values-driven.
It's egalitarian. There's not a hierarchical structure, okay? And I see this as kind of an indication of where things are going. It's a higher level, more value on co-creation.
You know, the older generation is looking for these kids to have the same work ethic, to dress the same, to look the same, to talk the same. And so they're not bad, they're not wrong, they're not lazy, they're just on a different journey.
Well, if you could get the attention of any millennials at this point, if you could get them to lift their head up so you could see what their face looks like, it would be amazing.
From the older stylists in the industry that I interact with, I almost get looked down on because of the title that I'm given while I'm training. And that's stupid, because why are you looking down on me when I have so many good things to contribute?
They're lazy, they don't work as hard as we did. It's just a tired record. I hate to be lumped into a category, and I have a lot of 20-somethings that work for me. I mean, we have 70 stylists. We have all these 20-somethings, and they're not all the same. And some are better at social media than others, and some are more ambitious than others, but you'd get that from any generation.
There is a big emphasis on inspiration over skills. The skills are the work, you know, and it takes time, and you have to be a little bit more focused. It's a little bit more boring, and given their attention spans, you know?
I don't think that they're lazy. I think they have so many things going on in their head, they're skipping around. And work may only be 4 hours of what they can handle skipping around in their head that day because they have so many other things going.
In reality, I can't even sleep sometimes because I'm thinking about so many things, and I'm on my phone till 5 in the morning doing research and constantly trying to build myself to the next level.
When your boss is having so many regulations and rules and all that, and you kind of you don't agree sometimes because of the difference in generations, so you kind of just want to do it on your own.
They want to trust you, and they want to feel like, you know, you're going to develop them, not just take from them and take from them.
Rather than me try and carve out these kind of draconian rules and laws, right, which is, well, you can't have a communication with your clients. You can't use an app to work with them because you'll get their information and it won't be the salons and you might leave one day. If you're thinking of it from a fear-based mentality, you're going to lose.
You know, so I think we just have to constantly upgrade what we're doing and stay in touch with that millennium mindset for us to be successful.
So we must, if we want to thrive, not just drive, if we want to thrive, we have to put our ear to the ground and understand what's going on.
For a short time, I was part of a corporate beauty brand, and I saw how the hairdressers were being lied to. They tell hairdressers that their products are only for professionals, but they'll put them in any drugstore that will give them a shelf. Hairdressers want loyalty, but they're fighting a losing battle, because to the corporation, it's just business. It's really up to the hairdressers to partner with like-minded brands. Brands that will actually support you.
Unfortunately, the salon owners have been so used to this, what I call the big letdown. You know, a brand comes out, says that they're all about the salon owner and education, and the next thing you know, it's in Costco, it's in Walmart.
When you pick up a brand, you want to believe you can trust that brand and that company and everything that they stand for. It's that loyalty and that trust. We already have a relationship. I don't want to think you're cheating on me.
With everything being online, you know, everything's kind of merging into one thing, and it's messy. And, you know, salons, when we're talking about from a direct distribution model, which is Oribe, for example, they would be really upset if Oribe ended up in a, you know, Walmart. That would be against what we told them we were going to do with this brand.
I think a lot of businesses with their business model see that here's this company in the professional beauty industry, and we've seen the history of that for the last 40 years. Now we're gonna go retail and get more money and more sales to the bottom line. So it's a matter of, we've done really good in the professional market, but now let's do the professional and retail both with this line.
But hang on, I've seen your products in really dodgy places.
If you see Paul Mitchell in any drugstore or supermarket, don't buy it. It's either gray black market or it's counterfeit. We didn't put it there. Do not buy it, period.
I mean, that's just those bigger companies that's not respecting our craft and what we do.
Again, those are those huge companies that we're talking about that, I've struggled a long time to learn to love them because I saw my dad just break away from something he gave all of it to a company that truly just destroyed it.
Why support a conglomerate when all they've done is let us down? Have any of them said, we'll only keep this product in the professional beauty industry forever, no matter what? No.
The ongoing cultural battle has always been between kind of centralized corporations that are typically run by very uncreative people and small indie entrepreneurs that are typically run by creative people. And it's the indies that are going to evolve, they're going to adapt, they're going to listen to what's going on in their community, and they're going to be successful. And corporate headquarters can't do that. And if you can't do that, you're going to die like all dinosaurs die.
A topic that came up in so many conversations was fear. Fear of change and fear of the unknown paralyze the creative process. These fears lead to something that has plagued our industry for so long, and that's price suppression.
Fear plays a key role in our decision making. So it's not like fear of the dark alley. It's fear of new things, fear of the other, and those kinds of things. It maintains and constrains our behavior.
What's preventing people from raising their prices probably the most is fear. I think when you talk to stylists, their fear is that if they raise their price from, just making this price, but if they raise their price from $50 to $60, that their clients are going to go in a huge backlash and run away. And that's the fear, because at the end of the day, the stylist knows that their bread and butter are their clients.
During the Great Depression, people spent money on beauty. We need it. You will not lose a client just because of the prices. You will lose a client if your lack of self-worth is rendered onto them.
Well, I definitely think we live in a society that people feel like, not necessarily that I did a good job, so I deserve more, but I've been doing it for so long, I deserve more. I've been here for 15 years, I deserve to make more money than that. It's like, well, no, you don't. You have a lousy clientele, you do lousy hair, and yeah, you've been here for 15 years and you have a lot of experience, but you're not staying up on education. You're really not nice to people anymore. You don't deserve more just because you're old. Wow, I should get $200 for that haircut because I've been doing this for 30 years. It's like, yeah, but that person over there who's been cutting hair for 6 months is fucking rocking it. Like, they're jamming, they're giving that person new style, they're teaching them how to use a product, they're doing all this. You've been doing that same haircut for 20 years. It's like, get some education.
When we stop generating or accepting new ideas, obsolescence sets in. A kind of apathy sets in. You stay where you are. It's a funny kind of stability, but that stability is what's vulnerable.
I can't stress enough the need to stay curious. It's the only way to feed yourself as a hairdresser. This is all about becoming aware of what's happening, and we have to look for the truth for ourselves. We have to accept responsibility for the things that we've bought into, but we have to be willing to change them too.
Oftentimes, millennials, technology, so many other issues that salon owners have to deal with becomes disruptors. Embrace those disruptors, but you have to learn to remold, understand that disruption. That's important for change, growth, and development.
We're not here to say, buy my products. We're here to say, the shit's going down, and you don't have to go down with it. Let's get on to the future and work together. Then we can change together.
Innovate and revolutionize what it is we're doing, because you have to change.
Someone's got to fight it. Someone's got to go after it. Someone's got to say, this is what I think needs to be done. Someone with a voice, a group of people, the industry as a whole. It's not just about the hair.
There's a revolution that's taken place. This revolution, a lot of people are just figuring out, but it's 5 years in the making already. And if you've dug your heels in and you've been reluctant to this revolution and change, it's not too late. But it needs to start now.
Change it from just fear to taking a risk that you can count your blessings and new ideas as you move forward. And if there's a change in that pathway, walk it, dare to walk it.
Make a decision and do something, because if you don't, you're gonna die. If you don't innovate, you're gonna die, and if you sit around and wring your hands and say, woe is me, bye-bye Felicia, you're not around.
We change people's lives, we give looks, we set trends. You know, we're an integral part of society, and we have to be compensated for it. But we also have to change our ways, and we have to adapt to where society is going.
You can make a difference. People, I don't think, are aware of how easy it is to be involved, so that when you do have something that is important to your industry or to you personally, you can pick up the phone and call, or you can send an email or a text. I can't stress that enough. People make a difference.
And salon owners, the beauty industry is poised in a perfect position to really embrace those ruptures and see what happens.
Sometimes when I need perspective, I think of my son. He's just entering this industry. It brings me back to thoughts of myself when I was his age. I think about how different the hair industry has become over the past 30 years, for better or worse. I was lucky enough to experience the golden age of hairdressing, but is the current version of our industry what I want to leave for him? We really need to start speaking up, or other people are going to do it for us. And I can't promise that they're going to have our best interests in mind. So raise your voice, start shouting, make a fuss, but just demand more, because our industry is worth something. And the time for conversation, it's over. The golden age of hairdressing was passed on to me, and many others like me. Now we've got an opportunity to pass it on to the next generation. But our effort will mean nothing unless we come together. We have to fight for better education, fight against deregulation, and align yourself with brands you can trust. When we started this film, we felt that the industry was in desperate need of a reset. By the time we were finished, we felt it was more like an awakening. But like all awakenings, it starts with yourself. My journey through this film leaves me with so much excitement and hope for what's next. So thank you.